Hi guys, we're in chapter 17 and 18. And 17 is called Discovered. Already I was leaping the last creek, urging my horse on with shouts, for I heard the other riders pouring down the hillside behind me. The crowd parted, banners waving, hands clapping, feet pounding, pounding, pounding. The rhythmic thunder was growing louder and louder. Instinct jolted me awake. Sitting up confused, I heard the stomping approach. A long grunt broke through my fog, the now familiar scraping sounds of Jenma's bulk squeezing through the doorway announcing her presence. Blinking the sleep from my eyes, I saw that she was leading the odd boy stumbling behind her, and slung over her meaty arm dangled one indignant tiger cat. I moved my mouth, but no words came out. "Well," Jenma said, a mysterious smile tugging her lips, "at the very least you haven't died in my bed." Still clutching the chubby hand of her son, she gently released Bader, who scrambled headfirst down the great expanse of berry-colored silk. He patted across the Sherdick, the rugs, loudly meowing his complaints. "Now I'm wondering," Jenma continued, "would this half-starved little creature that my daughters had to scoop from one of the milk bags belong to you?" Bader, by then, had leaped to my side, butting his head against my palm. I briskly rubbed the stiff hairs of his face, moist with droplets of milk, looking at Jenma. I nodded. "Any other secrets you'd like to share?" The fat woman looked at me with one raised eyebrow while she removed the boy's soiled dell, then guided his hand into a clean one pulled from one of the fancy chests. Under her gaze, I realized the cold morning air was sifting through my cropped hair and chilling my bare neck. My father's hat had fallen to the floor during the night, and there was a cold spot on my belly as well, an empty place where the leather pouch carrying the Khan's message was supposed to lie. My searching hands confirmed that both it and the gold piazza were missing. Widened eyes wordlessly told Jenma I knew I had been discovered. I slowly nodded again, my heart's pounding like that of an animal facing the hunter's arrow. Jenma led the boy, waddling to a corner of the room, and set him down, placing his hands around a bowl and large wooden spoon. Immediately he began to rock back and forth, banging out an uneven rhythm. Then, hands upon her broad hips, Jenma came and stood over me. She waited, and words came spilling from my mouth into the empty space between us. "The pouch with the Khan's message and the piazza, they're gone," I croaked. I was surprised to see that when Jenma had drawn near to my bed, Bader had jumped down and begun affectionately polishing his coat against the large woman's dell. She didn't kick him away. "Now those words," she said not unkindly, "are the truth. Maybe the first true words you've spoken to me, but you need not worry, I have them, and as soon as my son Delgar returns from the temple, he'll carry the bags to the next station." "But I am Khan's arrow rider," I said, the tone of my voice rising with growing fear. "He is expecting me to deliver them." "He's expecting you? Arun?" Jenma drew out the false name suspiciously. "I don't know how you came to put a hand on the royal piazza of Kubla Khan, but I'm as certain as salt he is not expecting you, which makes me think that there's more to your story than what you've told us, Arun." My own lie echoing my ears, I sighed. "Oh, Yuna," I corrected, actually relieved to shed my poor-fitting disguise. Red-faced, I picked up my father's hat and shyly turned my eyes toward Jenma. "What was it, the hat?" "Ha," she snorted, the golden rings of fat jiggling at her neck. "A woman doesn't bear 4 children from her loins and not know the difference between the girls and the boys, hat or no hat. Although," she added shyly, "unfastening your dell to get at the message pouch did reveal more than your nakedness." Annoyance suddenly clouded Jenma's face. "I only took those things because you were dead to the world with sleep, and I wanted Delgar to ride on with the Khan's bags. They won't be delayed at my station." She snorted again. "But he said it's an important day at the temple and rode there instead." "I'll ride on with the bags," I began, but Jenma cut me off. "You're only a girl and you'll do no such thing," she said, sharply. She turned to pull bowls from the tall blue cabinet, and as quickly as she turned back, the irritation in her voice vanished. "Now then, since I didn't get my story last night, I believe I deserve twice the story this morning, and somehow I am willing to wager I'm going to get it." She tossed me a sunny smile. "Come now," she said, "I have some tea and millet boiled for your breakfast. Well, closer to calling it lunch, but we won't send an arrow rider with that news. What do you take it in, butter, milk?" "Both, please," I answered, pushing the covers away. A chill air encircled my legs. I wondered why I hadn't felt it cold last night when the covers had been pulled from me by a stranger. I shivered, for I'd never felt so vulnerable, even when I was riding with the soldiers. One hand felt for and found the comforting weight of my lucky gold ornament still hidden within my dell. The fingers of my other hand tentatively tunneled through my short hair, which hung dirty and unbraided around my ears. It felt strange, for no woman of my tribe had ever cut her hair short. For a moment, a panicky feeling of not knowing just who I was swept across me. "Is that the new fashion of the karate?" Jenma teased. I squirmed, pulling on my boots. "I must see to my horse," which means like tend to her. Jenma ignored me, carrying 2 porcelain bowls to the fire and lifting the pot from the coals. "To your horse," she said, "or the Khan's horse? Whichever you decide to tell me, the white mare you rode in on is fine. I've seen to her already this morning. She's a bit puffed up on her far hind leg, so my girls are wrapping it in a blue gentian poultice. But you won't be riding her for a few days." "I have to," I blurted in alarm. Jenma shot me a look while continuing to ladle millet into the bowls. You won't, she said firmly. The old mare needs a rest. Delgor can ride out at first light. She dropped a chunk of butter into each bowl, then drizzled creamy milk over both. Come, she said, waving a hand. I left my bed to slump beside the cooking fire. Bader followed, flopping across my lap and purring happily. Slipping my hands inside my sleeves, I accepted the delicate bowl. Pale blue horses galloped endlessly around it. I must deliver the Khan's treasure, I said, eyeing the twin goatskin bags near the doorway, and swiftly, and I have to take Bayan with me. Jenma pulled the sturdy orange stool to the fire, and grunting squatted on it. Who? She asked after a sip from her own tea bowl. Bayan, my white mare. I have to take her with me, and she is mine, I said, glaring at my doubter over an out-thrust jaw. My father paid silver coins for her at Karakoram. All right, I believe you, Jenma began to chuckle. You and your cat there, you both have your stubborn ways. I suppose he has a name as well? She tipped her head toward the striped cat sprawled belly up in my lap. My own lips twitched. Of course, I responded. His name is Bader. Bader, you mean Hero? This little thing? Ha! Jenma slapped her knee and bounced forward and back. That's the start of a good story and worthy of more tea. Please help yourself. I poured some tea atop the remaining millet swirling in the bottom of my bowl. My, Jenma said, so you gave your cat the name Bader and gave your horse a name as well. I've never heard of such a thing. What was the mare's name again? Bayan. Yes, Bayan. And why did you give her a name? Because my cat already had a name and I didn't want to hurt my mare's feelings. I tried to say those words with a straight face, but already the laughter was bubbling up within me, and both Jenma and I doubled over in guffaws. Ha, Jenma laughed. Ha. Well, that's a good reason as any, I guess, to give a name to something that isn't a person. I don't understand it, but I certainly do accept it. But tell me, Oyuna, what is a young girl like yourself doing so far from home with a sore-legged horse and a hungry cat? She was set to laughing again, for Bader had suddenly appeared at her side, licking traces of butter from her fingers. I told you, I said, my face truly serious, I'm delivering the Khan's treasure. Ah, yes, but does the Khan know you are delivering it? In my experience, arrow riders like my son Delgor are all boys. Just how did you come to risk your neck in the name of Kublai Khan? And why do you think I would let this bird-witted venture of yours continue? I had no choice then but to tell Jenma how I disguised myself as my stepbrother to stay with Banyan and why I had been given the Khan's twin bags. Jenma listened to my story with respect, and I ended up telling her more about the way Bayan spoke to me than I had intended. When I finished, Jenma nodded approvingly. Well told, Oyuna. I admire your loyalty, and you have earned your dinner, she smiled. Marmot again. I hope you liked it. I nodded enthusiastically, for my mouth already watered at the thought. Now, you may be surprised to hear this, Jenma went on, but I do believe your mare spoke to you. I won't run to the mountaintop and shout it to the wind, she snorted. Well, that's a taste of words, for I can't run anyway, she said, chuckling a little. But what I mean to say is, I'm sure most people wouldn't believe you, and I don't advise telling just everyone you meet that you carry on conversations with your horse. She looked at me sternly, and I nodded. But I do understand, she said, bracing her hands on her legs. Jenma leaned back. Over the years, I have owned some favorite horses. None that I've given a name to. She cocked her head at me and grinned. But I felt we were of one spirit. When I watched them gallop, my heart galloped with them. Oh, how I longed to sit upon one's back and watch the ground fly past me. But, looking down, she snorted again. It would take 3 or more horses harnessed together to carry this body. The woman sighed, yet a small fire burned in her eyes. So I worked with them from the ground. I studied their blood, and I chose which mare to breed to which stallion. Very careful was I, not just turning loose my mares, as I have heard they do in the north. I was careful, and I watched to see which stallion could stamp his likeness on his foals and which mare could pass on steady disposition. I watched especially for strong legs, a short cannon, and a long forearm, and of course small hard hooves, for these qualities make for very fast horses. Jenma sucked in her breath and smiled. But listen to me prattle on, she laughed. Might as well try to tell the stream to stop running once you get me talking about my horses. I smiled over my tea bowl, for I understood. Tell me this one thing, Jenma. Tell me this one thing, Oyuna, Jenma said, looking directly at me. You left your family in order to stay with Bayan. Now you have her. Why do you not ride home? I hadn't told Jenma about my bad luck. Maybe if I didn't speak of it, I thought, or think of it, it wouldn't find me here. So I said simply, I'm looking for a swift horse, one to win a race. Someone told me there's a herd of 10,000 white mares south of here. Is it true? Jenma nodded. Yes, I have heard that Kublai Khan keeps 10,000 white mares. My ears prickled. I was doubly determined to deliver his treasure. And he keeps an equal number of white cows, Jenma went on. He believes the mates carry luck and use their milk in ceremonies. The mares, carry luck and use their milk in ceremonies. No one may disturb the herds. Even if they are blocking a road, you must ride around them. Even if that ride costs another half day, no one may bother these wild animals. Now Jenma turned her head toward the 2 goatskin bags, and she frowned. The Khan always gets what he wants, and he should be getting these right now. She stamped her leg. That Delgor chasing his dreams is going to get us killed. Okay, chapter 18 is called Jenma's Dreams. Jenma abruptly ended our conversation. A long silence crept by while she stared at the shirdik, the rug. Then, keeping her thoughts to herself, she fashioned a sunny smile and asked if I wanted to see Bayan now. Of course, I nodded happily, and Bader and I followed her out and around the station house to a sheltered meadow. Several horses, hobbled for ready saddling, grazed contentedly, and a small flock of black and white spotted sheep. Amid a small flock, so with the flock. Bayan, however, stood apart. Even with both front legs hobbled and a hind leg wrapped in a poultice-stained bandage, she shuffled anxiously from side to side. She was peering intently toward the thicket to the south, and I thought at first she was looking for Bader, but when he ran up, she gave him only a quick sniff before returning to her nervous weaving. "What's gotten under her hide?" Jenma asked. I shrugged. "I don't know," but I could feel Bayan's uneasiness stirring the hairs on the back of my neck. Something was wrong. Jenma turned her attention to the whereabouts of her 2 daughters and left my side, calling their names. Neither Bayan nor Bader flicked an ear to her voice as the little cat joined the mare in staring into the distance. With a concerned frown, I moved toward Bayan, hand outstretched. The moment my fingers touched her shoulder, she whinnied loudly. I jumped. Bader looked up, meowed, and looked away. "What's wrong?" I murmured, scratching the fuzzy white neck in big soothing circles. Bayan shook all over. I looked down at Bader. "What is it?" He ignored me, although his mouth opened and he began to pant rapidly. Following the eyes of my 2 friends, I squinted toward the thicket. Nothing was coming that I could see. Or was it that the 2 wanted to be going? The path leading to the next aero station stretched into this thicket. My heart bounded as I remembered Jenma confirming what Ekin Farlow had told me. 10,000 white mares waited to the south. I was certain I would find my swift horse among them. Observing Bayan's leg, I noticed some stiffness, but no serious lameness, although shuffling was hardly galloping. If my plan was to work, we would have to gallop, fast and hard. I retreated to the shade of a large pine tree to study Bayan's leg further and go over the details of my plan. Jenma ignored me as she waddled back to the station house, followed by Oregon and Davasurin. The girls appeared some time later, carrying milking bags, and disappeared over a small rise. They returned, and this I found strange, to unhobble the horses and lead them over the rise. Pounding hooves signaled their release. Only Bayan and the sheep were left in the meadow. Not until late afternoon did Jenma call my name. Bayan had finally ceased her shuffling, though she lifted her head between snatches of grass to continue staring southward. Bader had moved to my lap, but he too was keeping a watchful eye on the path through the thicket. He didn't even complain when I dumped him to the ground to answer Jenma's summons. The moment I entered the station house, I could tell that Jenma's fitful nature had shifted to the stormy side. Everyone was working in silence, Davasurin lugging in fresh water and Outgone beating the A-rog, while Jenma rocked upon her orange stool, muttering to herself as she stirred the cooking pot. I saw the girls exchange knowing glances. The odd son sat in his corner as usual, but even he remained quiet. That prickly feeling crept up my back. When at last we sat down to eat, all eyes darted apprehensively back and forth to Jenma's scowling face. Not until halfway through the meal did the people speak, and then it was bluntly. "Did your father, I assume you still have one, ever try to arrange a marriage?" I nodded again. "At last year's festival at Karakoram, but no one would have me." Jenma stared into her bowl, rhythmically swirling the broth for several long breaths. Then she raised her head, pulled herself as tall as her wide frame would allow, and in a voice full of authority said, "You will marry my son Delgar." The daughters and I gasped in unison. "But he wants—" began Davasurin. "Hush!" ordered Jenma. She emptied her uneaten stew into the cooking pot, dangerously wrapping the porcelain bowl on the bronze rim. Setting it aside, she dragged the kettle of boiling water from the embers and plopped a chunk of tea leaves into it. "I know Delgar wants to be a llama." Llama, Jenma said evenly, though she stared at her eldest daughter. "But I want babies in my house, now. It will be 2 or 3 more years before you marry and leave me to go with your husband, even longer for Oregon." The hungry dark eyes swept over the head of her younger daughter, coming to rest upon my equally stunned face. "But it is past time for Delgar. How many springs have you seen, O Yuna?" "Nearly 13, I croaked. "Past time for you as well. The gods have smiled upon me by guiding you to my house, and they will know how few women have passed through this door flap. You have been seen by them as to be my daughter-in-law." Jenma leaned forward, quivering with excitement. "You find my son handsome, don't you?" Again I flushed, for I remembered how, just last night, I had admired Delgar's round head, his thick lips, his sensitive fingers. To marry such as him would be any girl's dream, but marriage, I now knew, was not his dream. "Well, don't you?" Jenma prodded. I looked up. "Truthfully," I said, "it would be an honor to be Delgar's wife, but if his dream is to be a llama—" So I don't know that word is llama, actually. Lama? L-A-M-A? Which I don't know what that is, so I've got to look up what that is. I will look it up and let you know. "Dreams," Jenma spat the word. "Dreams are for the likes of us." She pulled one of the coral carvings from her ear, tugged on the fleshy lobe, then replaced the earring. "Delgar dreams of becoming a lama, and him with those dark, dirty fingers. Well, even I know you have to have beautiful hands to be a lama for singing the songs, and you." Just like a spring storm, the woman's temper unexpectedly blew in my direction. "You tell me you're dreaming of riding right up to the Khan's palace and handing him his treasure." "Well," she said, leaning forward and lowering her voice as if she shared a secret, "my eyes may be growing cloudy, but they can still see that you're a cripple, O Yuna. Last, I know they don't welcome the ugly and informed and infirm into the presence of Kubla Khan. Satisfied with her outburst, Jenma sat back upon her creaking stool and began to pour tea. For her, the skies had cleared. The sooner you give up hoping for something that's not going to happen, the happier you'll be, she said matter-of-factly. She handed me a tea bowl with a warm smile. Now you just plan to stay here with my family, and you and Delgar can have lots of babies, and you'll both just see how nice life is to live. Jenma abruptly changed the subject then, turning to Davasurin to ask about the number of lambs expected this spring. My hands trembled as I cut my tea bowl and turned over Jenma's words. She was partly right, I admitted. I, a girl, and yes, a cripple, had no business riding to the royal city of Khan Balak. I didn't even know how far it was, or exactly where. The image of Delgar's handsome face flashed in my mind. Where else would I find such a husband? Ever so slightly, I shook my head. Delgar was at the temple at the very moment, against his mother's wishes, because he wanted to learn to be a lama. So it's something in the temple that plays music. I'm not really sure. It wasn't his dream to marry, and I was growing more confident now. It wasn't mine either. My heart's true desire lay to the south. I had to ride on. I probably would not have spoken another word that evening, having so much to think about, but Bayon's strange behavior continued. Somehow she managed to nose her way inside the slanting storage shed next to the station. Ripping open a bag of grain, she scattered the precious foodstuff all over the ground, gorging for no one knows how long. It wasn't until well after dinner, when we were just heading for our beds, that a suspicious noise made Jenma send Davasurin to investigate. When the girl returned to report the spillage, Jenma's face grew stormy. My frantic apologies fell on deaf ears as the woman rose, pulled a short knife from the cabinet, and stomped into the darkness. I think Jenma enjoyed treating Bayon that night, saying that the horse's blood would be too rich carrying all that grain. The huge woman twisted my mare's upper lip with one strong fist, and by the light of torches held by her daughters, poked the knife inside Bayon's mouth. After searching for just the right spot, Jenma jabbed the glistening pink gum. I gulped, my stomach churning, as I watched the blood drip and drip from Bayon's gaping mouth. Jenma showed no pity, even though the old mare groaned and wished and writhed beneath her grip. Trust me, she muttered, I know what is best. The station was silent after that, and we crawled beneath our covers with few words. Yet long after Jenma and her family fell to snoring, I lay with my fingers rubbing at my collarbone, for I felt as if the herdsman's urga had tightened around my neck. That's the thing that would catch the horses. I had to gallop from this place, and it had to be tomorrow. It's chapters 17 and 18.